Hi, it's Adrian Davis here from the Summit Group in Whetstone. And I just wanted to take a moment and just share with you some thoughts about this new world of virtual selling, which really, we hear this saying, the new normal. This really has become the new normal. Even when the economy opens up again, virtual selling is not going away. And I think there are some sales professionals that I'm seeing that are not taking this seriously. I think they're hoping it will go away and they can just get back to what we do as salespeople: be in front of our customers, be in front of our prospects, face to face, building relationships, using our social intelligence, our emotional intelligence in these face to face meetings. Who knows when the economy will open up? When it does open up, who knows if it might close again? But even if it does open up again and everything goes swimmingly, a lot of organizations have now realized the value of virtual. And so we need to be more effective as sales professionals in selling in a virtual world. So I just wanted to make a couple of observations and open up a little bit with you and just show you how I have set myself up. So I think most of you know that I like to work from a whiteboard rather than speak from PowerPoint. So I've talked about the hero's journey. And basically, we have the hero leaving the ordinary world reluctantly, but we get to know who is the main character and what do they want, and they usually have some sort of fatal flaw that they're unaware of, but they're thrust out of the ordinary world into the changing world. And in that changing world, they now have conflict with some sort of a villain that could threaten everything and jeopardize everything. And hopefully, they are able to overcome that villain. And usually, that's with the help of a special resource. And then, with the help of that special resource, they emerge in the new world transformed. And not only has their external world transformed as a result of their victory, but internally they've transformed. And whatever that fatal flaw was, or that lack, that thing that they didn't have that caused them to almost lose everything in the changing world, that's now gone. And they've developed a new competence, new level of capability that they didn't have before. Now, I also have said that moving from the ordinary world to the changing world, or leaving status quo, it's a grieving process. And I just want to say that, we're going through this. I'm seeing sales professionals going through this, where, the fact that we can't get on a plane, or we can't get on a train, we can't get in our car and go see our customers and be on site. We've gone through, or we're going through, a grieving process with this, where there's shock and denial and maybe some anger and disappointment and even sadness. But we have to work through that and come out the other end. And maybe when we come out the other end, we'll actually be better for it. So for me personally, when the economy closed down and I couldn't get on a plane, etc., maybe I was in a bit of denial, but I was actually happy. I was relieved because I was just going so fast and so hard and flying everywhere, and that I actually thought, you know what, this is pretty good. Maybe I'll take some courses and I can just slow down a little bit. But customers started coming to me saying, Adrian, can you do this virtually? Can you do this virtually? And so I had to pivot and start to work virtually. And then the demand was just unrelenting. And so I was actually busier in a virtual world than I was in the actual physical world. So I think, though, that I had to realize as well that I had to pivot, and that these customers that were pushing me, I had to respond, because this is my business. If we can't get on planes, if we can't be with our customers in conferences, etc., then what are we doing? So I had to go through that process and quickly navigate in the changing world and come out the other end transformed. So I want to just talk about, for salespeople, what are things that we can be doing and should be doing. So first of all, just talk with some very basic things, and I want to talk about technology, because we have to be technology literate. We have to have some competence with technology. So first of all, and I apologize if it's really simplistic, but I think I have to touch on it just because of things that I've seen. Number one, um, frame yourself in the camera properly. So people are going, you're not the only person that your customers and your prospects are meeting with. They're meeting with people all day, every day. And so how you show up matters. And I've been in meetings where I've seen sales professionals with, I can see an unmade bed behind them. I can see mess behind them. Well, that speaks about you. That I don't, maybe this is the first meeting I'm having with you, and maybe there are other key stakeholders that are going to be in this meeting as well, and you're making an impression. So I think demonstrate that you care and that your background says something about you. You can always use a virtual background. It's not perfect, but in some cases, it's better than nothing. I use a virtual background, and I use a virtual background because of the second point, and that is always have natural light behind your camera and in front of your face. Again, in a lot of meetings where the natural light is behind the salesperson. And so what that does is the light then goes into the camera lens. The camera has to then compensate for this light, so it darkens your image. So now we can't really see you properly. And again, it looks unprofessional. So I had to configure my room here so that the natural light is in front of me. At first, it was beside me, and I found that one part of my face was lit up and the other part was not. And rather than compete with natural light, I thought, let me cooperate and work with the natural light. So I face the natural light. Unfortunately, what that means is I've got a closet door behind me. And again, when I show up to a meeting, people all over the world meeting me for the first time, maybe that's not the best environment or the best setting. So I will just put up a green screen and then I create a virtual background. And I don't want it to be anything overwhelming, or it should just be like first you might notice it and then you don't even notice it anymore. It goes away. But it's a nice clean image. Framing yourself properly in the camera. And this is especially true if you have multiple people from your company on the call. So you'll notice if you watch the news, if you watch the news, so negative these days, but if you watch the news and there are like, say, two or three people being interviewed and talking, you'll notice that they take great pains to line everybody up in the camera properly. So, sort of the space between the head and the top of the frame or the eye level of everybody, it's all consistent. So, for the viewer, it's very pleasant. Where I've seen meetings where it's multiple people from the same company and everybody's at different levels. So, I think just getting on the call a little bit early, a couple of minutes earlier, and just making sure that everybody's comfortable with how we're all framed. This would be another key point. Um, I think the microphone matters. So I have a dynamic microphone. This is and many times people are like shocked when they come on like, for the first time. They're like, "Hey, wow, that's a really cool microphone." So it becomes a little bit of a conversation point, but it's important. So your camera is important and your microphone is important. Why? And actually, just before I go there, before I forget, talk about what you wear. So I've seen again some sales professionals, and it's industrial sales. It's kind of they're usually used to being on plant floor, etc. But they'll come to a meeting in a t-shirt that it looks like they're going to fix their car. We can't do this. Again, we don't know who else might pop into the meeting. In fact, I was just meeting with an executive, and his wife came in to say hello. I wasn't expecting that. So if I'm in some kind of greasy T-shirt and she comes along, and then maybe afterwards, yeah, hey, what did you think of Adrian? Oh, he looks like a little bit of a slob. Bad impression. So even though we're at home, take the time to usually a golf shirt is fine, but just think about how do you want to be perceived? What message do you want to send in your appearance? And remember, your competitors all over the world they can meet with your customers and your prospects easily, and they can take your prospects and customers away from you easily. So races are not won by minutes or hours. They're usually won by fractions of a second. So every edge, every advantage you can get matters. The camera and the microphone I want to come back to. The camera that's in the laptop, I never use. It's a backup. And with all technology, you need backups, fallback plans. So in case I have trouble, I might end up using the built-in camera. But that's never going to be it's going to be my absolute last choice. First of all, it's a pathetic camera. I use a MacBook Pro, but the cameras built into laptops they're not great. Secondly, usually the laptop is below your eye level. So you end up having to look down at the camera, and the camera is looking up at you. And more often than not, it's looking up your nostrils. So if I have to meet with you for an hour, looking up your nostrils, it's not pleasant. The microphone matters. So if again, multiple people in a meeting, and you're the one person in the meeting that has a horrible sound, it's like people don't want you to talk. And every time you talk, it's disturbing. So taking that extra effort, usually you can get a decent microphone for $100. If you spend a little bit more, you can get an even better microphone. Um, Condenser microphones are fine. There's condenser versus dynamic. This is dynamic. I use dynamic because where I live, can be a lot of sounds going by right on the lake here. So it can be motorbikes or just different sounds. So a condenser microphone will tend to pick up all the sounds and amplify all the sounds. So the quality might be great, but it will amplify everything. Whereas a dynamic microphone will amplify the sound that's right in front of it. And other sounds, it might pick them up, but it's not going to amplify those sounds as much. So that's why I would prefer a dynamic microphone. If you do use a dynamic microphone, then you need some sort of a preamp to get the sound into your computer. So, if whoever you buy your equipment from can help you with that. Let me just show you a little bit behind the scenes how I'm set up. So you'll notice when I talk, I will often just change views. I have my whiteboard view. I have my this is an iPad, and I'll often draw on the iPad. So that's another view that I have. So I have these different views. So how do I do that? So behind the scenes, I'll just show you here. Um, So this is how I'm set up behind the scenes. So the customer doesn't see all of this, but I'm going to show it to you, and you don't have to jump in. I had to figure all of this out like sort of in the last 2 months. So since the economy closed up in COVID, I'm like, hey, this is my business. I'm going to invest and figure some stuff out so that I can continue to work, continue to sell, continue to deliver. And in many cases, I have customers saying, wow, the virtual experience, it's actually better than the in person, or it's just as good as the in person. We felt like we're just with you. So what are some of the investments that how am I set up here? So first of all, you'll see my laptop. So my laptop now, I run that connected as a hub. And from that hub, I can connect all my USBs, etc. But what I also use the hub for is a splitter. So the hub will split the signal from the monitor or to the monitor to two different monitors. So I can now have something on the laptop. And usually what I'll have on the laptop is the gallery view of everybody who's on the call. And then on the main monitor, I'll have the speaker view. So I can see who's speaking to me. You'll notice now that I have a second monitor that is replicating what's on the main monitor. The reason I have that is I want to look up to the speaker. So sometimes I'll see that people, they've got the laptop over here and maybe they have their second monitor here. And so when I'm speaking, they're looking this way. But when they speak, they have to turn and look this way. And in a virtual world, this is deadly because we're not face to face anymore, and we need to be able to build connections. And one of the biggest ways we build connections is through eye contact. So the whole time I feel like I'm making eye contact because I'm looking at the screen, but the experience that you're having is basically subconsciously I'm ignoring you. So this is why I will have this second monitor so that I have to look up. I'm looking at the speaker, talking to the speaker. I'm actually not looking at the camera. It looks like I'm looking into the camera, but I'm actually looking at the speaker's face and into the speaker's eyes. And so I feel like they're looking into my eyes, and then you feel like I'm looking into your eyes. You'll notice the lighting. So I have different lighting now around here. And this lighting, these are Elgato lights, and they allow me from my phone, from my iPhone, to basically turn them on and off. So with a green screen, lighting is critical anyway. Because again, you're meeting with multiple people. You're not the only Zoom call or Microsoft Teams call or Skype or Google Hangouts, whatever it is, all these different technologies. They're having these all day long. So they're having a relative experience. They're looking at you compared to others. So lighting matters. And so you want to make sure that you show up and your image is nice and crisp and your voice is nice and crisp. So, and especially as I mentioned with a green screen, some days are very bright, other days may not be. The way that the camera processes the green screen and the software processes the green screen depends a lot on lighting. So I have the lighting so that I can adjust it and beforehand to make sure that the green screen it works properly. So now I have the main camera, but I also have a secondary camera up here, and I'm not sure if you can see that. Actually, why don't I do this? I'm going to take this from the iPad and plug it into my iPhone, another iPhone that I have. And by the way, the cameras in your phone are often better than the cameras in your laptop. So sometimes it's better to work out how you can make your phone your camera. So I'm going to make my iPhone the camera now. We'll switch to that view. And so this, you'll see up here, that's the camera that's pointing to the whiteboard. So I have that camera pointing to the whiteboard. I have the main camera pointing to me. I have that fourth camera you'll see back there. That camera is giving you the bird's eye view behind the scenes. And so we can have multiple cameras, and that's what I'm doing there. So let me go back to the behind the scenes view. You'll see some technology. So I mentioned the hub. That gives me a split, but there's also here. So I will split so that I can see the main speaker, and then I can also have the laptop. But I also have over here another monitor, and that's what tells me sort of what's on preview, what's going to come next, and so I can always be just aware of what view am I going to be showing next. So that's what that is for. Okay. But that monitor, I only use that in this way when I'm live. When I'm not live, I switch it to a third monitor for the laptop. So when I'm just working in my office, I've got monitor 1, monitor 2, and then this becomes monitor 3. So I can just be a lot more productive working at home in this way. So this is a switcher. So this is the A10 Mini Pro, and this is what's allowing me to switch different camera angles. Over here is an audio mixer, and this is how I get the sound from the dynamic microphone, and this is an ART D7. This is how I get the sound from the dynamic microphone into my computer, but it also allows me to mix in other sounds as well. So again, when I'm doing a workshop, it just gives me a lot more versatility. I've got my iPad, so sometimes I'm drawing and I want that to be projected as well. These here are just some additional lights on both sides. Usually, again, lighting up the green screen. So I can use these lights to go behind me to light up the green screen while the Elgato lights are lighting up me as the subject. And that way I can just really make sure that the image that I'm projecting is crisp. And then this is a Stream Deck. This allows me to have multiple software programs that I can program in, and then without having to look around, if I want to call up a particular program or a different view or whatever, I can program these keys. You'll also notice an old iPhone as a clock. I'm very sensitive to time. I start on time, I finish on time. If I give breaks, start and stop on time. So if I'm facilitating a session, people need to know that I do everything on time. So they need to be early, they need to show up on time. When I give a break, they need to come back on time. But also in meetings, people are going from one meeting to another. The same way we're busier than usual, our customers and our prospects are busier than usual, and they don't have downtime between meetings either. So you don't want to be the person that is holding them back and causing them to be late for their next meeting. So I'm down to the second, and I'm watching and I'm making sure I'm not keeping people over. Headphones are important. So this allows me to hear exactly what my customers or prospects are hearing. So a good set of headphones are important, and that also sometimes, especially if you're having multiple people, you don't want to have feedback. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, I'll have another laptop over here. So sometimes I'll feed that in if I want to demonstrate something or present something. I don't use PowerPoint, but sometimes I might want to use Excel. So I'll just feed in another laptop and be able to show that screen as well. This keyboard is sitting on this is actually a whiteboard. So sometimes I might want to make a note to myself about something. So that's what that's for. And I think that is everything. I told you about the lighting, the cameras, and the action. So that's it. So I think that will give you a sense of kind of what's going on behind the scenes. So customers might just see me here. But all of this I've had to learn in the last 2 months. I'm not I like technology, but I'm not an audio visual guy or whatever, but this is our business. And for a lot of us, we're not traveling the way that we used to. So for you to go to your manager and say, look, we're saving a lot on travel here. I'd like to invest in a camera. I'd like to invest in a microphone. I don't think there's any sales manager on the planet that's going to say, I don't think that's a good idea. Because again, your competitors are showing up looking much more professional. They can pull in their executives to any meeting. And if you're showing up, you're not framed in the camera properly. So you're showing up in the camera looking like this. You're not dressed properly. You don't sound good. It's a disaster. And the customer kind of subconsciously and emotionally just wants to get off the call. But if you're the one who comes to the call and like you're always professional, that's going to give you the edge. I think you're going to enjoy your work a lot more. So, you know what? Uh, Make a little bit of an investment because even when the economy opens back up, virtual selling is not going away. So we just need to master this new medium. Our work really doesn't change; just how we do it will change. So I hope this was helpful. Like, share, pass this on and this is a noble craft, this is a noble profession. Let's just pivot with the times and continue to create value.